I grew up thinking men were dangerous because my mom told me they were. I mean that literally. My first memory of learning about men was sitting at the kitchen table when I was 4 years old. Mom was cutting my sandwich into triangles when she suddenly stopped and gripped my hand hard enough to hurt. "Listen to me very carefully," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper, even though we were alone in the house. "Men are predators. All of them. Every single one. They look normal, they act normal, but inside they're all thinking about how to hurt you." Her eyes were wild, darting toward the window like someone might be watching us. I nodded because I was 4 and Mom was the smartest person in the world, so if she said men were dangerous, it must be true. She made me repeat it back to her. "What are men?" "Dangerous," I whispered. "What do they want to do?" "Hurt me." "Good girl." She kissed my forehead and went back to cutting my sandwich like nothing had happened. That was the first lesson of many that would shape the next 14 years of my life. By the time I was 5, the rules were clear and absolute. No talking to men, no looking at men, no being in the same room as men unless absolutely necessary. And even then, only with Mom present. When we went to the grocery store, Mom would position herself between me and any male shoppers, creating a human barrier. If a man smiled at me, Mom would grab my arm and pull me down a different aisle, muttering about how that was exactly what predators do. They smile to gain your trust. At the park, if boys were playing, we'd leave immediately. Mom said boys grew into men, and the poison started early. Better to avoid them completely than risk exposure. Our house became a fortress against the male threat. Mom installed extra locks on all the doors and windows. She put up blackout curtains so no one could see inside. She got a security system with cameras pointing in every direction. Every package delivery, every maintenance visit, every interaction with a male service worker became an elaborate production of safety protocols. Mom homeschooled me from the beginning, saying public schools were hunting grounds where predatory boys and male teachers could access vulnerable girls. Our curriculum was normal enough, math and reading and science, but woven throughout every subject were warnings about men. History lessons focused on wars started by men, crimes committed by men, oppression enforced by men. Literature was carefully curated to avoid any positive male characters. Science included detailed lessons on male violence statistics and evolutionary psychology that Mom said proved men were biologically programmed to harm women. By age 7, I could recite crime statistics and identify different types of predatory behavior. Mom quizzed me constantly. "What do you do if a man approaches you?" "Run and scream." "What do you do if a man tries to talk to you?" "Don't respond and find Mom immediately." "What do you do if you're ever alone with a man?" That question was always met with Mom's darkest expression. "You're never alone with a man. Ever. I'll make sure of it." My Aunt Diane tried to intervene when I was 8. She was Mom's younger sister and the only family member we still had contact with. Diane came over for Sunday dinner and brought her husband Raymond with her, which immediately sent Mom into a panic. She'd explicitly told Diane never to bring Raymond to our house, that he wasn't welcome, that his presence contaminated our safe space. Diane ignored the rule, probably thinking Mom would be forced to be civil with me watching. The moment Raymond walked through the door, Mom grabbed me and pushed me toward my bedroom. "Stay there until he leaves," she hissed. "Lock the door from inside." But I was curious about this forbidden creature. I'd seen men from a distance in stores and through car windows, but never up close in my own house. I pressed my ear against my bedroom door and listened to the argument that erupted immediately. Diane was begging Mom to get help, saying this wasn't normal, that isolating me from half the human population was abuse. Mom screamed back that protecting her daughter from predators wasn't abuse, it was good parenting. I heard Diane crying, heard her say that Raymond was a good man, that not all men were dangerous. Mom's laugh was bitter and sharp. "That's what they all say. That's what my father said right up until he wasn't." The room went quiet after that. I didn't know what Mom meant. She'd never talked about my father, never explained why he wasn't in our lives. I'd asked a few times when I was younger, and she'd shut down completely, sometimes not speaking to me for hours afterward. I learned to stop asking. After Diane and Raymond left, Mom came to my room and sat on my bed. Her hands were shaking. "I need you to promise me something," she said. "Promise me you'll never trust them. No matter how nice they seem, no matter what they say, men only want one thing, and once they get it, they destroy you." "What do they want?" I asked, not understanding. She looked at me with such sadness. "You'll understand when you're older. Just promise me you'll remember they're dangerous." I promised because I was 8 and terrified by the fear in my mother's eyes. Diane stopped visiting after that. Mom said it was because Diane had chosen Raymond over family, had let a man poison her mind against her own sister. We were alone then, truly alone. No visitors, no family, no friends. Our world shrank to just the two of us inside our locked house with its security cameras and blackout curtains. Mom worked from home doing medical billing, and I did my homeschool assignments at the kitchen table. Our routine was rigid and predictable. Wake up, breakfast, lessons, lunch, more lessons, dinner, TV, bed. The only variations were grocery trips, which Mom planned for off-peak hours to minimize male encounters. By age 10, my social skills were non-existent. I'd never had a conversation with a peer, never been to a birthday party, never played with other kids. Mom said socialization was overrated and dangerous. Other children had fathers and brothers, male relatives who might try to access me through friendship. Better to stay isolated than risk exposure. The internet was heavily filtered. Mom installed parental controls that blocked anything with male content. I couldn't watch movies with male actors, couldn't read books with male protagonists, couldn't access websites that showed images of men. My entire media consumption was curated to reinforce Mom's worldview. Women were safe, strong, trustworthy. Men were predators, violent, dangerous, I didn't question it because I had nothing to compare it to. This was my reality, my normal. I grew up believing that half the human population was actively plotting to harm me, and that my mother was the only thing standing between me and certain destruction. When I was 12, we had to take our cat to the vet. Whiskers had been sick for days, not eating, barely moving. Mom tried to find a female veterinarian, calling every clinic within 30 miles. But it was Sunday, and the only emergency vet available was a man named Dr. Mitchell. Mom debated for an hour whether Whiskers' life was worth the risk of me being exposed to a male veterinarian. She finally decided we had to go, but only after creating an elaborate safety plan. I would wait in the car while she took Whiskers inside. If for any reason I had to come in, I would keep my eyes down, not speak, stay behind Mom at all times. We drove to the clinic with Mom's hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel, muttering about how this was exactly the kind of situation predators exploited, sick animals creating vulnerability. At the clinic, Mom made me lock the car doors from inside while she took Whiskers in. I sat there for 45 minutes watching people come and go. A couple walked out with a small dog. The woman was laughing at something the man said. They looked happy together, comfortable. It was the first time I'd seen a man and woman interact positively, and something about it felt wrong, like I was watching something forbidden. When Mom came back, she was pale and shaking. Dr. Mitchell had asked about me, had wondered why I wasn't coming in to say goodbye to my cat if it needed to be hospitalized. Mom said she'd panicked and told him I was contagious. Whiskers died that night at the clinic. When Mom called for an update the next morning, Dr. Mitchell expressed condolences and asked if I'd want to come by to collect Whiskers' belongings and say a proper goodbye. Mom said absolutely not, that I was too young to handle death. She picked up Whiskers' things herself while I stayed home alone, mourning my cat and confused about why saying goodbye to him was apparently more dangerous than staying home by myself for the first time ever. That confusion was the first crack in my belief system, though I didn't recognize it at the time. I just felt sad about Whiskers and vaguely angry at Dr. Mitchell for existing and making everything complicated. By 13, I was struggling with questions I couldn't voice. Were all men really predators? Every single one? What about male doctors who saved lives? Male firefighters who rescued people? The men I saw through car windows who looked bored and tired and normal? But asking these questions felt like betraying Mom, like doubting the foundation of everything she'd taught me. The isolation was becoming unbearable. I was a teenager with no friends, no social life, no connection to the world beyond our locked house. I started spending more time on the filtered internet, finding ways around some of Mom's controls. I discovered forums for homeschooled kids where I could chat anonymously. I was careful never to mention my situation, just ask general questions about normal teenage life. What's school like? What do you do with friends? The answers painted a picture of a world I'd never experienced, parties and football games and hanging out at the mall. It sounded both terrifying and exciting. One girl mentioned her boyfriend in a post, talking about how sweet he was, how he'd brought her flowers. I stared at that post for an hour, trying to reconcile the image of a sweet boyfriend with everything Mom had taught me. Were there actually good men? Or was this girl just naive, not yet aware of the danger she was in? I asked Mom directly one night during dinner, "Are there any good men? Any at all?" Her face went through several expressions before settling on something like grief. "I thought there was once," she said quietly. "I thought your father was good. I was wrong. The consequences of being wrong almost destroyed me, and I won't let that happen to you." That was the most she'd ever said about my father. I wanted to ask more, to understand what he'd done that was so terrible it justified 14 years of isolation. But Mom's expression told me the conversation was over. We ate the rest of dinner in silence, and I went to bed wondering what my father had been like, whether he was still alive, whether he ever thought about me. Sleep that night was difficult. I kept imagining different versions of my father. A monster, like Mom implied, or maybe just a normal man who'd made mistakes. I'd never know because asking about him was the one guaranteed way to make Mom shut down completely. At 14, I accidentally saw a man up close for the first time in years. We were at the grocery store during our usual off-peak hours when a man rounded the corner of our aisle suddenly. He was maybe 50, wearing a business suit, looking at his phone. He almost bumped into me before looking up and apologizing. "Sorry about that. Wasn't watching where I was going." Mom immediately pulled me behind her, positioning herself between us. My daughter doesn't speak to strange men. The man looked confused but raised his hands in a placating gesture. "No problem." Didn't mean to startle anyone. He walked away quickly, probably thinking we were crazy. But I'd seen his face up close for those few seconds. He'd looked tired and distracted and harmless. Not predatory, not dangerous, just human. Mom was furious during the drive home. "That's exactly how they operate," she said. "They apologize. They seem harmless. They make you let your guard down. Then they strike." But he didn't strike. He just apologized and left. He was trying to lure you into trusting him. Building rapport. It's a classic technique. I wanted to argue, wanted to say that maybe not every interaction with a man was a predatory technique. But I held my tongue because arguing with Mom about men never ended well. She'd either shut down or spiral into a panic attack, and I'd learned to avoid both. That night, I used my filtered internet access to research predatory behavior and grooming techniques. What I found did describe manipulation and trust building by actual predators. But it also made clear that normal friendly interactions weren't predatory. A man apologizing for almost bumping into someone wasn't grooming. It was just being polite. The gap between what Mom taught me and what the internet described was becoming impossible to ignore. Something was wrong with Mom's worldview. But admitting that meant admitting I'd been lied to for 14 years, that I'd been kept in isolation for no good reason. It was easier to suppress the doubt and keep following Mom's rules. My 15th birthday was the day everything changed. Mom had baked a cake and we were sitting at the kitchen table when someone knocked on our door. Mom's whole body went rigid. We weren't expecting anyone. She checked the security camera feed on her phone and I watched her face go white. "It's your father," she whispered. "He found us." The knocking continued. I wanted to see him. This dangerous man who'd shaped my entire existence despite being absent from it. Mom grabbed my arm. "Go to your room. Lock the door. Don't come out no matter what you hear." But I was 15 and tired of being protected from something I didn't understand. I pulled away from her. "I want to see him." "You don't know what he is. He'll hurt you." "How?" I asked, surprising myself with my boldness. "How will he hurt me? What did he do to you?" Mom looked like I'd slapped her. She opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. The knocking came again, louder. Mom took a shaky breath and made a decision. She went to the door with me following despite her protests. Through the peephole, I could see a man in his 40s with graying hair and tired eyes. Mom opened the door but kept the chain lock engaged. "What do you want?" Her voice was cold, hard. "I want to see my daughter. It's her birthday. You lost that right a long time ago." She tried to close the door, but he put his hand against it. "Please, just 5 minutes. I've been trying to reach you for years. The court said when she turned 15, I could request contact. I just want to talk to her." Every word he said contradicted Mom's narrative. The courts were involved? He'd been trying to reach us? This didn't sound like a predator, it sounded like a father who'd been kept away. I pushed past Mom and looked at him through the crack in the door. "Hello?" he said softly, his eyes welling up. "You've gotten so tall." "I look like you," I realized. Same eyes, same nose, same shape of face. This wasn't some stranger. This was half my DNA. Mom tried to pull me back, but I stayed planted. "Why did you leave?" I asked him. "I didn't leave," he said. "Your mother took you when you were 2. I've been fighting in court ever since to see you. She got full custody after convincing a judge I was dangerous." I turned to Mom. "Is that true?" Her face was a mask of conflicting emotions. "He is dangerous. The court didn't understand. I had to protect you." "Your mother accused me of abuse during our divorce," my father said quietly. "It wasn't true. I never hurt either of you. But the accusations were enough to get a restraining order and full custody. I've been waiting 15 years for the legal right to even speak to you." Mom was shaking. "Don't listen to him. This is what predators do. They lie. They manipulate. He's trying to turn you against me." But nothing he was saying sounded like manipulation. It sounded like truth. A truth that meant everything I'd been taught was a lie. I made a decision that would change everything. I want to hear his side. Mom's expression shattered. "If you let him in, if you listen to his lies, you'll be in danger. I can't protect you if you won't let me. Then I'll be in danger," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "But I need to know the truth." I unlocked the chain and opened the door fully. My father stood on our doorstep looking like he might cry. Mom backed away, pulling out her phone. "I'm calling the police. You're violating the restraining order." "The restraining order expired when she turned 15, my father said. I checked with my lawyer. "I have every legal right to be here with her permission." Mom called anyway, reporting a dangerous man at her home threatening her daughter. The police arrived within 10 minutes. By then, my father and I were sitting in the living room having the most surreal conversation of my life. He told me about the divorce, about Mom's mental health struggles that had started during her pregnancy with me, about her paranoia that he was going to hurt us, accusations that escalated until she disappeared with me in the middle of the night. He'd hired lawyers, fought in court, presented evidence that he'd never been violent or abusive, but Mom had been convincing, and courts favored mothers, especially when abuse was alleged. He'd gotten supervised visitation at first, but Mom violated it, moved states without permission, changed our names. She'd been running from him for 13 years while he searched and filed motions and waited for the day I'd be old enough that courts might listen to what I wanted. The police officers listened to both sides of the story. They checked IDs, made phone calls, verified that my father was telling the truth about the legal situation. One of them, Officer Reeves, pulled me aside. "Your father has legal documentation showing he's allowed to have contact with you. Your mother's restraining order has been expired for 3 months. Do you feel safe with him here?" I looked at my father, this stranger who was somehow not strange at all. Then I looked at my mom, who was crying and begging the officers to remove the dangerous man from her home. "Yes," I said. "I feel safe." Officer Reeves nodded. "Then we can't make him leave unless you want us to. Your mother can't legally prevent contact anymore now that you're 15. That statement broke something in Mom. She started screaming that the police were complicit in putting her daughter in danger, that they'd regret this when I turned up hurt or dead. The officers tried to calm her, but she was beyond reason. Eventually, they suggested she might benefit from speaking with a mental health professional. She laughed bitterly. "I'm not crazy. I'm the only sane one here. Everyone else is blind to what men really are." Officer Reeves exchanged glances with his partner. "Ma'am, has anyone ever suggested you might have trauma that needs professional help? Your fears about men seem to be significantly impacting your daughter's well-being." Mom's response was to order them all out of her house. They left, but not before giving me a card with resources for teens in crisis situations. My father stayed. Over the next hours, he told me everything. About meeting Mom in college, falling in love, getting married, about Mom's difficult pregnancy and the postpartum depression that followed, about how that depression morphed into paranoia specifically focused on him and other men. He'd tried to get her help, but she refused, insisting she was seeing things clearly for the first time. The paranoia got worse. She started sleeping with a knife under her pillow. She'd check his phone constantly. convinced he was plotting something. She joined online forums for abuse survivors and came out more convinced than ever that all men were dangerous. He'd suggested couples therapy, individual therapy, medication. She'd refused everything, saying therapists were part of the system that protected male predators. One morning, he woke up and we were gone. Mom had packed our things in the middle of the night and disappeared. It took him 6 months to find us, and by then Mom had convinced a judge that he'd been abusive, that she'd fled for our safety. The accusations were investigated and found baseless, but the damage was done. I sat there processing 15 years of my life recontextualizing in real time. Mom wasn't a hero protecting me from danger. She was mentally ill, and her untreated paranoia had robbed me of a normal childhood. The grief hit me like a physical force. I'd lost 15 years with my father. I'd lost friends and school, and normal teenage experiences. I'd lost the ability to trust or interact with half the human population, all because Mom's trauma had convinced her that her delusions were reality. I started crying and my father held me while I sobbed. "I'm so sorry," he kept saying. "I tried so hard to find you. I never stopped trying." Mom watched from the doorway, and when our eyes met, I saw fear there. She knew she was losing me, knew that the truth was destroying the reality she'd constructed. "Don't believe him," she pleaded. "He's lying to manipulate you. This is exactly what I warned you about." But I couldn't unhear what I'd learned. Couldn't unknow that my entire childhood had been built on delusion. I asked my father if I could stay with him for a while, just to think, to process, to experience life outside Mom's controlled environment. He said yes immediately, said he had a spare room, that I could stay as long as I wanted. Mom tried to physically block the door when I went to pack a bag. "You can't leave. It's not safe out there with him. He'll hurt you. He's had 15 years to hurt me and all he's done is try to see me," I said. "The person who hurt me is you. You stole my childhood. You isolated me based on your own paranoid delusions." She slapped me. The shock of it stopped us both. Mom had never hit me before. Her hand flew to her mouth in horror at what she'd done. I stepped back and my father moved between us. "We're leaving now. If you try to stop us, I'll call the police back." We left Mom standing in the doorway of our fortress house, crying and begging me not to go, warning me that I'd regret this, that I'd understand too late that she'd been right all along. My father's house was normal. Shockingly, beautifully normal. No extra locks, no security cameras everywhere, no blackout curtains. He lived in a quiet neighborhood with sidewalks and trees and neighbors who waved hello. He showed me to the spare room, which he'd apparently been keeping ready for me for years. There were stuffed animals on the bed, posters of bands I'd never heard of on the walls, books on shelves. "This was supposed to be your room," he said quietly. "I've been waiting a long time to have you here." That night, I couldn't sleep in the normal room in the normal house. Everything felt wrong because it wasn't what I was used to. I got up around midnight and found my father in the kitchen making tea. "Can't sleep either?" He smiled sadly. "I've been too excited and terrified in equal measure." We sat at his kitchen table and I asked him questions about Mom. When did her paranoia start? Had she always been like this? He explained that she'd had a traumatic experience in college before they met. A male student had assaulted her at a party. She'd reported it, gone through the investigation process, and watched him receive minimal consequences while she dealt with PTSD and depression. That trauma was real and valid, my father emphasized. But instead of processing it healthily, it festered and expanded until she couldn't differentiate between her attacker and all men. She started seeing threats everywhere. When she got pregnant with me, the paranoia intensified. She became convinced that my father would hurt me, that all men were waiting to hurt me, that the only safe place was away from men entirely. My father had tried everything to help her, but you can't force someone to accept help they don't think they need. "Do you hate her?" I asked. "No," he said. "I'm angry about what she did, about the years she took from us, but I mostly feel sad. She's sick and she refuses treatment. The person she hurts most is herself. And now you. We need to get you into therapy. You've spent 15 years being taught to fear half the human population. That's going to take time and professional help to unpack." The next morning, my father introduced me to his girlfriend, Patricia. I panicked when I heard a woman's voice in the kitchen, my first thought being that my father had lied, that he had brought a strange man into the house. But it was just Patricia, a kind-faced woman in her 50s, who taught elementary school. She'd brought breakfast and was setting the table when I came downstairs. "You must be Sophie," she said warmly. "Your dad has told me so much about you. I've been hoping to meet you for years." I didn't know what to say to this normal woman in this normal situation. My father noticed my discomfort. "Patricia knows about your mom's situation. She understands you might need time to adjust to being around new people. Take it at your own pace." Over breakfast, I watched them interact. Patricia teased my father about burning the toast. He laughed and stole a piece of her bacon. They had an easy, comfortable dynamic that spoke of years together. This is what normal looked like. Not predators and victims, just people. Patricia left after breakfast, and my father took me to register for high school. I'd never been to a real school, never been around peers, never sat in a classroom. The prospect terrified me. My father sensed my panic. "You don't have to start right away. We can ease into it. Maybe online classes first?" But I wanted normal. Desperately wanted to experience what I'd missed. I shook my head. "I want to try." We enrolled me as a sophomore, even though my homeschool education was spotty and incomplete. The guidance counselor, Miss Foster, helped create a schedule that included some remedial classes to fill the gaps. She also connected me with the school psychologist, Dr. Yang, who specialized in teens with trauma. My first day of school was overwhelming. So many people, so much noise, so many boys. I'd spent 15 years being taught that male students were predators, and now I was surrounded by them. Every time a boy walked past me in the hallway, I tensed. Every time one spoke, I flinched. By lunch, I was having a panic attack in the bathroom. Dr. Yang found me there, brought to me by a concerned teacher who'd noticed my distress. She sat with me on the bathroom floor while I hyperventilated and cried. "This is completely normal given what you've experienced," she said calmly. "Your nervous system has been trained to see threat where there isn't any. We'll work on retraining it, but it takes time." She arranged for me to leave school early that day and set up our first therapy session for that afternoon. In her office, I told her everything. 15 years of isolation, the lessons about male danger, the complete lack of social interaction, the discovery that it was all based on my mother's untreated paranoia. Dr. Yang listened without judgment, taking notes occasionally. "What you've experienced is a form of psychological abuse called thought reform," she explained. "Your mother systematically taught you to fear men as a way of controlling you and validating her own paranoid worldview. Undoing that programming will be our main focus." She gave me homework: watch movies with positive male characters, read books written by men, practice being in the same room as males without panicking. Small steps toward normalizing what my mother had taught me to fear. My father was endlessly patient. When I flinched at his sudden movements, he'd slow down, announce what he was about to do before doing it. When I panicked about being alone in the house when he was there, he'd go outside until I calmed down. He never pressured me, never made me feel broken for my fear responses. Patricia helped too. She'd come over for dinner and tell stories about the male teachers at her school. Mr. Kowalski, who brought treats for his students every Friday, Mr. Liu, who cried at graduation ceremonies, Mr. Park, who coached the girls' soccer team and taught them about confidence. She normalized men as humans, not threats. Over weeks, then months, I started to heal. Started to see that my mother's teaching had been distorted. Yes, some men were dangerous, but so were some women. Most people, regardless of gender, were just trying to live their lives without harming anyone. School got easier. I made my first friend, a girl named Raina, who sat next to me in English class. She invited me to study at the library, and I went, feeling like I was doing something revolutionary by spending time with a peer. Raina had a boyfriend, Leo, who I met by accident when he showed up at the library to surprise her. I tensed immediately, all my mother's warnings flooding back. But Leo was just a teenage boy, awkward and sweet, bringing Raina her favorite candy. He said hi to me, then focused entirely on Raina, making her laugh about something that had happened at his soccer practice. I watched them together and realized this was what teenage relationships looked like. Not predatory, just young people figuring out how to care about each other. When Leo left, Raina noticed my expression. "You okay?" "You got really tense when he showed up." I told her a simplified version of my situation, that I'd been homeschooled in an isolated environment and wasn't used to being around boys. Raina was understanding without pressing for details I wasn't ready to share. My mother called constantly at first, dozens of times a day, leaving voicemails begging me to come home, warning me that I was in danger, that my father was manipulating me. I listened to them with Dr. Yang in therapy, and we analyzed the paranoid thinking patterns together. "Notice how she doesn't ask how you're doing," Dr. Yang pointed out. "She only talks about her fears and her need to protect you. This is about her anxiety, not your actual safety." After a month, I stopped answering Mom's calls entirely. The voicemails became more desperate, then angry. She accused me of betraying her, of forgetting everything she'd taught me, of being naive and stupid. The anger was almost easier to handle than the desperation. It made clear that this wasn't about love, it was about control. She'd built her entire identity around protecting me from a threat that only existed in her mind. Without me to protect, she had to face her own untreated trauma. My father suggested I might want to see a regular therapist in addition to Dr. Yang, someone who could help me process the mother-daughter relationship specifically. I started seeing Dr. Osei twice a week. She helped me understand that I could love my mother while also recognizing she'd abused me, that the isolation and fear-based teaching constituted psychological abuse even if Mom believed she was protecting me. The hardest part was accepting that Mom would probably never see it that way. Her paranoia was too entrenched, her delusions too comforting. Admitting she'd been wrong would mean accepting she'd harmed me, and her fragile mental state couldn't handle that truth. By my 16th birthday, I'd been living with my father for a year. I had friends, decent grades, and most days could be around boys without panicking. I'd even gone on a group movie outing where Raina's boyfriend Leo brought his friend Marcus. Marcus was quiet and funny and respectful, and when he asked for my number at the end of the night, I gave it to him. We texted occasionally, just friendly conversation about school and music, but even that felt revolutionary. I was having normal teenage interactions with a boy. Something Mom had taught me would inevitably lead to harm. Nothing bad happened. Marcus didn't try to hurt me or manipulate me or any of the things Mom had warned about. My father threw me a birthday party, the first real party I'd ever had. Raina came, and a few other friends I'd made at school. Patricia made a cake. They sang happy birthday while I cried happy tears because this was what normal looked like. Later that night, my father gave me a present, a photo album he'd been keeping for 15 years. Every birthday, every milestone I'd missed, he'd bought a card and written me a letter describing what he hoped I was doing, how much he missed me, how he was still fighting to see me. The album was full of unopened cards and unread letters, a chronicle of his love spanning the years we'd been apart. "I'm never going to let anyone take you from me again," he said, hugging me tight. "You're safe now. Really, truly safe." For the first time in my life, I believed it. Not because the world didn't contain danger, but because I'd learned to assess real threats versus imagined ones. I'd learned that isolating yourself out of fear meant missing out on the beautiful parts of life too. I'm 18 now. I graduated high school with honors and got accepted to a state university for psychology. I want to help other kids whose parents' mental illness hurt them, kids who grew up in distorted realities and need help finding their way back to truth. I haven't spoken to my mother in 3 years. She sends letters occasionally, still warning me about the dangers I'm supposedly surrounded by, still insisting that one day I'll understand she was right. I don't think that day will ever come. Dr. Osi helped me understand that my mother is unlikely to ever accept treatment or admit wrongdoing. Her paranoid beliefs are too central to her identity. The best I can do is move forward with my own life, build healthy relationships, and stop letting her fear control me. My relationship with my father is strong now. He's walked me through learning to drive, applying to colleges, all the normal parent stuff he missed. Patricia has become a second mom to me, the kind who doesn't see threats everywhere, who trusts me to make good decisions and supports me when I stumble. Marcus and I dated for 6 months before mutually deciding we were better as friends. The breakup was healthy and mutual. Nothing like the destruction my mother had predicted all romantic relationships with men would be. I've learned that relationships of all kinds require trust and communication and mutual respect, regardless of gender. Some of my closest friends now are men. My study group includes 2 guys who are brilliant and kind and have never once made me feel unsafe. My running partner for cross country was a boy who pushed me to be better and celebrated when I beat my personal record. These relationships would have been impossible in the world my mother created for me. I would have missed out on so much genuine human connection because of her fear. When I tell people my story now, I always start the same way. I grew up thinking men were dangerous because my mom told me they were. I mean that literally. Then I explain how 15 years of isolation based on paranoid delusions shaped me, how hard it was to unlearn, how I'm still unlearning. The goal isn't to pretend danger doesn't exist. There are absolutely people who cause harm, across all genders. But living in constant fear of half the population isn't protection. It's a prison. My mother built that prison for me, and escaping it has been the hardest thing I've ever done. But I'm out now. I'm free. And I spent my life making sure other kids trapped in similar prisons know there's a way out, that the fear their parents taught them doesn't have to define their future. Sometimes I wonder what my life would have been like if my mother had gotten help after her trauma. If she'd processed her assault in healthy ways instead of letting it metastasize into paranoid beliefs that consumed her life and mine. But I can't change the past. I can only move forward, building the life I should have had all along. A life where men aren't monsters, where fear doesn't control every decision, where I can trust my own judgment about who's safe and who isn't, based on behavior rather than gender. That's the life I'm living now. And it's beautiful. If you're still here, you're a true fan. Show some support with a like and subscribe to catch the next one.